But let's get to eulogizing the Mage Next Door. This series spent a lot of its runtime frustrating me, unfortunately. It was something I was very interested in, and I was very interested in this series from the first chapter. In fact, I thought that it showed enough promise that I was happy to jump it up my personal read order for the magazine overall. This was just about before I was doing my, this weekly shonen review. Then basically from that point on, it was just a nosedive down to the bottom. It never got as bad as Gonron Egg, in my opinion, which really didn't have nearly as high of a high point as this series had. But its biggest issues were issues that I identified pretty early on in this series, and they are the lack of creativity with the magic. The original setup for this series provided us with a mage who had basically an unlimited supply of useless spells to pull from, and he would encounter a horde of mages who themselves were causing problems, and he would have to use his smarts to creatively get over the bad guys. This idea is interesting, but it was not explored at all. And in fact, fairly quickly it was abandoned for a spell that functioned like a big blast of energy and, just throwing everything at his foes when things get wrong. And I'm talking about the spell that turns the water guns into big beams. I mean, that was basically just like a beam of magic. Then at the end, he goes to, get his super hydro cannon blast magic beam, and the original plan for the series was totally abandoned. The second thing, issues with the art. For most of this series runtime, the art for the characters lacked expression or dynamism. It seemed like each character had one stock face, or charitably had two stock faces, and then the mangaka just cycled through each of those depending on what the situation required. And this just became more and more obvious as you were reading the whole chapter. You just quickly became to realize, their faces aren't changing. They're making the same face. Osoigawa had the bored face, the heroine had the shocked face, and that was just the faces that they had. Also, for a while, the mangaka had a problem with the ratio of the head to the bodies, so the heads looked really tiny. I know it seems like a small thing, but it just kind of added up over time that it definitely felt like there wasn't a lot of things that were being creative done with the characters, and you felt it over time. Add on to these issues was just a lack of well-written dialogue or a compelling overarching story, and this series became a struggle from start to finish. I won't even knock it too hard for the extremely sharp turn that we took at the end of the series. I fully expect that was the result of the mangaka knowing that his series was about to end and taking it to a conclusion that was either something that was wanted to get to eventually or something that they could be happy with at the end of the day. I think that this is a real shame because, as I said, from chapter 1, I think that this series showed promise. But I am not at all surprised that it got the axe. And I'm sorry to say, I think it was deserved. I would have dropped this series earlier had it not been for me knowing with absolute certainty that it was ending soon. Just from the fact that they took that really sharp turn, I pretty much knew at that point that the end was pretty close, and then the next chapter or two kind of confirmed my suspicion, and then this chapter ultimately confirmed the fact that it was true that this series was ending. So if it wasn't for that, I think there's a high possibility that I would have dropped it a little bit sooner.